Good morning, everybody. The 1950s was a decade of great television watching. And by the time the 1950s came to an end, most Americans watched television quite a bit. And it was on this date, November 2, in 1959, that Charles VanDoren, the star of the program 21, admitted to a congressional committee that he was given the answers to quiz show questions. This is known as the quiz show scandal. Radio quiz shows had been quite popular in the 1930s. Professor Quiz, pictured here, was probably the first one. When World War II ended and more Americans had TVs, these kind of shows became very popular. One was the $64,000 question. But there were dozens of game shows through that decade. And ours is 21. So here's Jack Barry, the host. He was pretty well known. When 21 started, they didn't prompt the contestants with any answers, and they looked kind of dumb, and it was sort of a bust to the first episode. So Geritol, you see the name in the middle, they were the sponsor, and they said, look, we're not doing that again. We need people who look smart, who look savvy. So that became part of the vibe, is smart people, of course, they give them the answers. And Geritol, by the way, who sponsored 21, advertised that they cured tired blood, but nobody knew what it was. Geritol was basically an iron supplement, but hey, it was the 50s. So here's Charles VanDoren on the right. His dad was a Pulitzer Prize winner. His uncle was a Pulitzer Prize winner. He had a master's degree in astrophysics. He had a PhD in English. He was very poised, really good on television, and just exactly what Geritol wanted. Problem was Herb Stempel on the right was pretty successful, but Herb's ratings, or the TV ratings, had plateaued. One thing led to another, and Herb Stempel agreed to lose to VanDoren because Geritol wanted VanDoren on the air, and that's what happened. There's quite a backstory behind it. So Charles VanDoren started to win, and he won week after week after week. Eventually, the money he won in today's money was over $1 million. But he got off the show and did some other things for NBC. Well, meanwhile, Herb Stempel, pictured here, starts to make some noise about fraud. And nobody believes him at first. But then other TV programs have it. Other contestants come forward. The congressional committee that oversees TV starts to get involved. One thing leads to another. And VanDoren testified. And here he is in front of that committee. And he admitted he was complicit in fraud. And after this, he resigned from teaching, worked for the Encyclopedia Britannica, and became kind of a recluse in Connecticut, where he lived. Well, Congress had passed the Communication Act of 1934, but they had to update it for TV because of the quiz show scandals. Well, the quiz show vibe disappears until Jeopardy! 1964 starts to make the quiz show a little more popular, particularly the whole thing about winning money. In 1975, Wheel of Fortune came out, and this kind of TV program starts to get more traction. The scandal smell of it disappeared, and then you have Who Wants to Be a Millionaire was really popular. So now the kind of TV show where people win money is pretty common, but it had really fallen off the radar after the quiz show scandals. In the 1980s, Robert Redford directed this movie about the quiz show scandals, and he asked VanDoren if he would be an advisor. VanDoren said no, but Herb Stempel makes a cameo, so that's pretty interesting. In 2008, Charles VanDoren wrote an article for The New Yorker about the quiz show scandals. He had been silent for all those years, but here he tells some of the detail behind it. It's pretty fascinating. A few years ago, Dorothy and I went to West Cornwall, Connecticut, where the VanDorens had their summer house. Here's the train station VanDoren probably used. on his way to New York City, where he found fame and disgrace.